You know, it's a great honor to be with you tonight. My wife is actually from the Cleveland area, and she's with me tonight. I'd like to ask her to stand up. The flower of Fairview Park, Darlene. And I'm going to get her right over here to my notes, I'm sure. There we go. You know, I have the honor of serving in Columbus with some wonderful people, but I can't think of anyone of whom I have more respect for than someone who's actually with us tonight. We've worked together on a number of issues regarding accountability and efficiency in local government, and she knows it well because she served as a mayor. And I would like to especially ask Marlene Anielski to please stand. And I'll tell you what, she's doing a great job for you in Columbus. Please send her back. You know, Abby started off by mentioning that I spent some time in the newspaper industry, and I actually had gone to school during the whole Watergate years and all that, and I thought journalism looked like a pretty cool thing to do, and so I went to the Ohio State University, got my degree, and started working for the old Columbus Citizen Journal. And people would ask me at home, well, Dave, what are you doing now you're out of college? And I said, well, I'm a daily newspaper reporter. They look down at their shoes and say, you mean you're a member of the news media? We had such high hopes for you. Well, eventually my newspaper went out of business. I had nothing to do with that, by the way. And so I went off to law school and studied at the Capital University Law School, and in due time finished school and passed the bar, and I came home and hung out a shingle to practice law in my hometown of Delaware, Ohio, just north of Columbus. And people would say, Dave, we noticed that your newspaper's out of business. What are you doing now? I said, well, yeah, I'm a lawyer. I'm practicing with Jeff Burkham down on Central Avenue. And they look down at their shoes and they'd say, you know, a lawyer? Really? We had such high hopes for you. As you can see, I was quickly climbing the social ladder of respectability. And as time went on and my children grew, I had an opportunity, was asked to run for county auditor. And that sounded like a fine thing to do. I've always been interested in government accountability, so I ran and won that office. And people would say, Dave, we notice you're not practicing law anymore. Your name's not on the sign down there. What are you doing? I said, well, you're county auditor. That means I'm your chief fiscal officer and your tax assessor. And they look at me and say, shake their heads and say, you mean you're a politician? Dave, we had such high hopes for you. I said, I'm sorry you feel that way, Mom. Reminded of that movie that Robin Williams was in a few years ago, kind of a remake of Peter Pan. Do you remember that? It's called Hook. There's this wonderful scene where Robin Williams is meeting the Lost Boys for the first time, and they mistake him for a pirate. And they say, kill the pirate. And he says, I'm not a pirate, I'm a lawyer. They said, kill the lawyer. He says, I'm not that kind of lawyer. But, you know, it's funny, isn't it, how we look at a thing about a person and think that we know about them. How, because they do this for a living or belong to that group, we think we know who they are. I remember well the year 2001. I had a colleague with whom I was working. Her name was Sheree. and she was a person of Middle Eastern descent. And she was first generation American. After the news in September of that year, she was really treated cruelly by a few people that knew her and some who did not, for no other reason than her ethnicity. Never mind her accomplishments or the fact that she actually was a secularist. She was seen and treated as a member of a group assumed to have religious beliefs that she did not. And she was not allowed to be who she was. I was very saddened as she told me about her experiences. And I was ashamed that some of my fellow countrymen would leap to conclusions about someone with no idea of who they were. Here's the thing that we all share. We all want to be judged based on our own actions and on the content of our own character. We are not our parents. We are not our profession or our gender or any of the other loyalties we may hold. All of those things are important, but we want to be seen for who we are. You see, there's a dangerous idea loose in the land that the most important thing about us is what group we belong to. To some, it's most important to have had ancestors at Plymouth Rock, or to belong to the right club or live in the right neighborhood. To others, it's our ethnicity or our income or our gender. We're even marketed to by these ever more finely dissected groups. Soccer moms or working men or the educated or the 47%. And we're assumed to be monolithic, that we all think and act the same way just because of one or two variables or memberships in a particular group. Of course, we don't all think and act the same way, do we? All you have to do is look around to know that. Heck, I don't even agree with my wife about everything, unless she's in the room. This idea of group identity and the identity politics that flow from it is a destructive force that divides us. And it's not what I believe. I believe in the American ideal that begins with the individual, not the group. Those unalienable rights cited in the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, those rights all belong to people, and they belong to all people. But they belong to all people as individuals. That American ideal looks to the merit of the individual. As I look around this room, I see successful people, people who have worked hard and created wealth, people who have made something out of nothing, people who have reached out with compassion to others, who have multiplied joy in a world that has too little of it. The most important thing about you or me or any of us is how we actually live our lives, the choices that we make, and the people that we choose to be. Thinking back to that Declaration of Independence, I'm reminded of a story about Ben Franklin, one of the founders. And one day after that Constitutional Convention in July 1776, a couple of years later, he was sitting on a park bench outside Independence Hall. And there were problems. There was sectional rivalries in the United States. There was debt. The war with England was dragging on. Things weren't particularly good in America. And this lady walked up to Ben Franklin and said, "Mr. Franklin, I've read the Constitution and I've read the Declaration of Independence and all those high and mighty words. What I want to know is, where's all this happiness that you promised us?" And Ben Franklin looked at her gently, said, "Ma'am, the only thing we promised you was the pursuit of happiness. You have to catch up with it all by yourself. My name is Dave Yost. Thank you for having me here.